Good evening, hello and welcome ladies and gentlemen to the 7th round of the PSGL F4 Championship here in Season 27. We are here at the Sochi Autodrome in the race in Russia for what will hopefully be an interesting round after I sadly missed last week's race in Italy due to the fact that I wasn't home in time. Luckily we had Jake commentating. And once again, Jake is here for this week, and he's going to be commentating again with me. So, same old duo for today.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you back. Gives my voice a bit more of a rest. But yeah, it should be a good one tonight. We've got a full grid of 20 drivers, looking pretty overcast for qualifying, has to be said. And we should be in for a great round. And certainly the last race really spiced up the championship because we have a new championship leader, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I was wondering for a little bit that you saw the overcast conditions already, because I wasn't even loaded in, but then a few seconds later I actually was there. So I can now see the racetrack myself, and I can also see that it's quite overcast, so we might see some rain here in this quali session, but we'll have to wait and see for that. Sochi, not the most loved track, to be absolutely honest. I mean, the fans don't really love it, the drivers don't really like it, and it's just a bit of the tracks that we've just got nowadays in F1. A lot of runoff, no grass, no gravel traps, and you're not really punished that much for a mistake. But still, the walls are pretty close, and if you make a mistake, you are at a high risk of damaging your front wing at least. And in game, I feel like it's not that difficult to overtake in comparison to real life, sadly. But yeah, yesterday in F7 we had a pretty good race, I'd say, and hopefully today will be something similar, as the drivers are not going out to start their outlaps.
Yeah, it should be an interesting one. No one was in a real mad rush to get out there on track, but yeah, I'm interested to see. There's a few drivers actually that interest me coming into this. We've got Feynman back, who didn't race last week due to the fact that he's a reserve and there was just no spots available, unfortunately. But he's back tonight in the Ferrari, and we saw how quick he was at Monaco, so I'm interested to see how he does on what is, let's face it, a much more conventional track than Monaco. I suspect he could be very quick once again. And how will Luke cope with the pressure of being championship leader for once? He's been hunting down Ryan all season. Now he's the target for everyone to try and reach, so it'll be interesting to see if that affects his performance at all.
Yeah, it's a close fight in the championship so far, which is good to see after 6 rounds done. And yeah, Russia, 18 corners, 2 DRS straights, and not really the best overtaking opportunities, and the most ridiculous turn 1 I've ever seen, with the little king to the right hand side, right after the start finish line. And I'm still going to call technically turn 2. I'm going to call it turn 2, but for me it's still turn 1. It's a bit like Austria with turn 3, but yeah, in F1 just every single corner counts, it looks like. And I think Russia is just a track where you just have to practice quite a lot, because you don't really have many braking points when you're running no line. It's very difficult to judge where you need to brake. It's very easy to invalidate, to get penalties, but we saw Dan taking a really nice line through turn 2 there, and coming around the long swooping left-hander of turn 3 then.
Yeah, it's an interesting little sort of start to the lap, and it can be a tricky one at the start of the races, because there isn't really much space through that first chicane as Dan invalidates. Looks like he got a bit of oversteer on the exit, and that just pushed him beyond the lines, unfortunately. Yeah, it can be a little tough corner to start the lap that, and it's not. I don't know. It's a bit of an awkward one for overtaking, certainly on the first lap if you're going in 2 or 3 abreast. So, you know, I think certainly at the start of the race, it's going to be about keeping your nose clean, because tyre wear is not particularly a big issue around here either. So if you do get damage on the first lap, you're very much up against it, and you are relying on safety cars to bring you back into play.
Yeah, the thing is, yesterday in F7, obviously you didn't see the start, sadly, due to the fact that you lagged out right before it, but we had a lot of carnage through turn 1, actually. Just the little king was enough to, yeah, result in some carnage in the end, and some front wings being broken and penalties being given to drivers from the game. I was sadly one of those guys who got not only front wing damage, but also a penalty. But then we saw safety car later on in the race, and that brought some of the guys back into play, and we could see something similar here today. And I wouldn't be surprised if we would see a safety car, and we've got a solid banker from Maxwell then with a 129.5. Leighton goes just slightly slower. Jan F1 racer, our race winner from previous week, goes 7 tenths slower. And I feel like Russia really is a track, either you're very, very good at it or you're just bad. And Diamond proves that he's one of the guys who's really good at it, sets a 129.4 as a banker, and that's a really solid start to his session.
Well, it definitely, to use actually last night's F7 race is a good example of that. Bryn, who, you know, is not a slow driver by a stretch of the imagination, but, you know, he hasn't really been fighting for wins up to now, but then yesterday in F7 he goes and absolutely dominates. Even with a safety car period, he just pulled away again. I've not really seen, especially with how close these tiers are at PSGL, I've not seen someone put into performance like that in quite a amount of time, and it came from someone who, in Bryn, who doesn't usually produce that sort of performance. So Russia really is, if you can get to grips with it, you can produce some sensational performances. But I have to say, right now, not really a surprise as to who's done the quickest time. Feynman once again showing just how quick he is, although Ryan now goes to the top of the pile on a 29.2, which I believe was the F7 pole time. So I wouldn't be surprised by the end of his qualifying session if we maybe dip into the 28s.
I could see that happening. By the way, if I was you, I wouldn't make any calls on any drivers or comments on any drivers anymore, because you absolutely cursed me yesterday, and I still blame you for that one. And I hope you don't do the same to any of those guys out here tonight. But at the minute, we've got Ryan then sitting on pole position and Diamond in second. Quite expectedly, I think, to see those two guys up there. Usually, those two guys are, at most occasions at least, up there fighting for race wins or at least podiums most of the times. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens if anyone can fight these two. Maxwell doesn't look too slow either, only 2.5 tenths behind Paul at the minute as well, and that's only after the first lap of everyone. We've got Super Mario about to finish his lap, coming through that awkward third sector, which I absolutely find disgusting because it's got no flow to it. It's just got weird corners right after each other.
Yeah, this track really does sometimes lack a flow. Even the straights are not really straights. They have little kinks in them, which I don't think really add to. They don't really add to the track, and also don't really add to the racing. But yeah, of course. I mean, one of the few interesting things about this track is that it was actually built around the venues for the 2014 Winter Olympics. I mean, I imagine the venues weren't particularly put in great places because the track they built around it could do with a bit more imagination. But a bit like France, I've found, it does tend to produce a lot more excitement on the game than it does in real life. So hopefully we'll be in for more of the same. One driver who has yet to put in a great banker time is the championship leader Luke. He's the second off the quickest time at the moment, so I suspect we'll see more from him. But Max is one of those. He just seems to pop himself just up there every single round, and he's one to keep an eye on. He's a bit of a dark horse, I found, so far this season. So it's a nice little lap from him, and it's good to see Ryan back at the top as well, because he's since the sort of first 3 rounds, he's struggled to replicate that form. He's only had 10 points in the last 3 races, which for a driver of his caliber is very disappointing.
Well, yeah, I find that consistency is key in any sort of racing, and it doesn't matter if you're the quickest driver out on track. If you don't perform consistently, and if you don't get your stuff together, I should say, to not use a different word here, you just need to keep it together, as Ghosts nearly didn't, as he loses the rear end there. And if you're just consistently scoring good results, then you might be the one winning the championship, even if you are not maybe the quickest one out in that championship. But if you just get your consistent results, if you're consistently up there, collect some solid points every round, then you will be up there, I can guarantee you that. And like, that's the thing, racing isn't just about raw pace, racing is about consistency. And yeah, that is something we saw last season in F5 as well, and I think that's going to be the key this season in F4 as well.
As Ghost goes third, nice lap there from Ghost, just 3 tenths off his teammate. And it's a very close battle, actually, in the Constructors' Championship at the moment between Alfa Romeo, Mercedes and Red Bull. So that fight's hotting up too. And Mercedes have probably been the most out of form out of those three teams lately, so it's important for them to bounce back. And that looks pretty good so far. And Ghost, speaking of the sort of the similarities between Russia and France, Ghost did actually win the F4 race at France. So that's anything to go by. This sort of track could come into play for him tonight, as he looks to bounce back from what wasn't a particularly strong round at Monza last time out. He didn't actually score any points. So he'll be looking to bounce back, and that's a good little effort there, as both Mercedes looking pretty much on song in these opening stages of qualifying.
Yeah, currently sitting in P1 and P3, so first and second row could be a good starting position for those guys. And I think in Russia you'd rather start at the front than being in the midfield. Obviously on every track you want to do that, but I think especially around here it could be important, as I accidentally flipped the camera to different cars, which I didn't want to do, I'm sorry. Because I think in the midfield it could be quite chaotic, it could be quite hectic as well, and you could lose your front wing in just a bit of chaos then, as Jan slides across the finish line and goes 9th fastest. Slight improvement for him, and he goes inside the top 10. And I really hope for him that he can keep up this momentum he's got now from the past two races, because he's got a second place and a first place, and he is really on form at the moment. But today doesn't look like he's got the pace of the race win quite yet, at least not in quali. But before that, we saw only 1 points finish from him as well, which was a 10th place. And then suddenly he just appeared there and came second in, where was it, in Monaco, and then won the race in Italy. So basically out of nowhere he came up and scored some brilliant results. And yeah, that's the exciting thing about this F4 grid, I feel. That we've got some drivers who are just surprising us week in, week out.
It really is, and when there's no, other than Luke, I would say, with his 4 second places in 6 races, who currently holds the championship lead, no one's really managed to string consistency together week in, week out, which really has been the issue for some of these drivers. Obviously, one driver who could potentially mount a late title charge, as Boyrod actually goes up to 5th. That was a good lap from him. And Ghost has left the session. Hopefully he can rejoin. Yeah, one driver who could, if he's actually able to race at most of the tracks left, who could do something is Feynman. But of course, we've been, I think he's a second reserve behind Furhan. That does sometimes mean that opportunities are limited. But in his 2 races so far, he's got a 3rd and a 1st. So if he is able to race at most of the remaining tracks, Feynman is definitely one to look out for. But it's like you say, it's all about consistency. A lot of these drivers have the pace, but stringing together consistent results has proven to be a problem for a lot of these.
And there goes Ryan then, underlining what he's been showing so far in this session with a 129.1. That's a really good lap, and brings a bit more of a gap in between him and Thyman. But Thyman also on the lap, but he isn't validated, so he won't improve on this lap. And he's got the engine rev glitch, which is making me switch away from him. And Vapornood actually goes into the top 3, currently in 3rd place, and that was a pretty good lap from him as well. And that's the second row of the grid.
Yeah, Vapornood actually scored 2nd at France, so this similarity between France and Russia really could be one to keep an eye on. Drivers that were good around France could very well be good around here too. Another thing that's going to be key to avoid here is penalties, and it is a track where it's quite easy to pick up the odd penalty here and there. I find that when you've got a lot of runoff, rather as opposed to grass or gravel, drivers are a lot more keen to take risks. But of course, if you take risks, then you run the risk of getting penalties and warnings. Yeah. And this is a good lap from Cohen to look out for. He goes 2nd onto the front row of the grid. He's another driver who's been improving of late. And both Alfa Romeos at the moment looking pretty solid with their performances this season. So Cohen's one to keep an eye on. That's a decent little lap there to move it onto the front row. But still a couple of attempts to drift of Ryan, who is looking very strong up to now.
I just want to acknowledge, I can remember that yesterday in F7, I was 8 tenths off pole position and saw myself in P5 at some point in the quali session. And now the driver that is 8 tenths away from pole is Fairhunt, and he finds himself in 15th. So that's quite a difference, 10 places behind the place I was in, with the same gap to the pole position time. And that just shows how close F4 is at the minute. And that is just brilliant to see, and I think we really could have a good race here, even though it is Russia. But what I've noticed from yesterday, and what I've still got in mind from yesterday, is that DRS trains are very powerful around here, and if you get out of that 1 second window, it can be really, really difficult for you to get back into it, as simply Rush outbrakes himself and nearly hits the wall on the outside there. That was pretty close, but he kept it out the wall. That was quite nicely out as he went down into turn 13. And that's probably not going to be the best of lap times. And yes, he abandons his lap and goes into the pit lane.
We've got Luke on his latest attempts. He tries to join his championship rival Ryan near the top of the timing screens. His best lap at the moment is only a 30.2, but I think this is going to significantly improve his place. It's only P10 though. He's not looked overly comfortable thus far in qualifying, and unfortunately, as you mentioned, just lacking even half a second in this league can be the difference between being right at the front and all of a sudden be struggling in the midfield. And with a full lobby, as Luke now crashes out of qualifying, so he's decided, I don't think he would have got back to the pits in time, so obviously decided that's enough of that. Yeah, not the qualifying session he would have wanted, and yeah, it's going to be tough in the midfield here with a full grid, and like you say, DRS trains are a massive thing here. So he's going to have a long race ahead of him. He'll be hoping, of course, that you probably at this point don't want to start 10th. You'd probably rather start 12th or 13th, and at least then you can do something a bit different with the strategy.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, look at how close the gap in between P8 and P11 is. It's just 8 thousandths of a second. And then as well, to P12, it's another 21 thousandths. So just every single hundredth of a second matters in this division, and that's what I love about it. And as well, in between P4 and P7, there's not even a tenth. So many little groups of drivers who are very, very close to each other. But now we can see many guys are out on their outlaps now, and Thyman is the first one of the pole position contenders to start his final lap. And let's go on board with him as he comes through turn 1 then, and he takes the tightest line he could possibly take, then goes to the outside, starts braking on the curb, goes down into 3rd gear. That looked nice and tidy, up into 6th, then he goes in, and 7th, probably goes into 8th, yes he does. You could rev out the 7th gear here as well if you want to, but I think the run is just that little bit too long. That looked nice and tidy as well. And now coming into the 2nd sector, he's slightly up on his time. Wouldn't be enough though to take pole position, but would be enough to put himself into P2. He could definitely go on the front row of the grid right now, but if he wants to get that pole position, he needs to improve even more. But that looks nice and tidy, nearly invalidates, but that was pretty much a perfect line from him. Then brakes on the curb on the outside again, then nicely clips the apex on the inside, and then accelerating again onto the 2nd DRS straight, and it's only 1 sector to go when he goes into turn 13 here. That's turn 12, and now turn 13 he's 55 thousandths of a second up on his time, and let's see if he can improve massively in the 3rd sector. He'd need to if he wants to get that pole position as he comes through this little awkward left-right chicane, and that looked nice and tidy as well. Hopefully he won't get blocked by Fairhunt. He makes way for him quite nicely. That was good by Fair, and he comes across the line. What will it be? And he takes provisional pole. And that last sector was good enough to put him onto provisional pole. But what has Ryan got to say against that?
That last sector was absolutely incredible. I was just thinking, well, he might be able to get P2 here. I didn't think for a second he was about to pull that final sector out of the bag, especially when you saw some of the traffic in front of him. But fair play, that was a great effort from Feynman. But Ryan himself is on a pretty good lap too, so is Ryan about to make Feynman's joy short-lived as Kush goes up to 3rd with a great lap in the other Ferrari? So that's a good effort from him. But Ryan around the last couple of corners here, sliding a bit in turn 17. What's he going to do for turn 18? Oh, he just lost the back end of the car through those last couple of corners, and that's cost him a shot at pole. He'll have to make do with P2, although can anyone Gate crashed that front row.
I think Ryan saw that he needed more time to gain. Maxwell goes on to P3. That's a good lap from him as well, but we still got Cohen left to do his final lap now as he comes into the final sector. And that awkward left-right chicane might probably have cost a lot of drivers some good lap times. I think that was Vapor Nuth right behind him, who just lost a rear end through there, and that would have been his lap time gone. And now into the final corner goes Cohen, and let's see what he can do. He improves by 1 position and goes up into P4. And there goes
Kazizel goes
Kazizel.
third. Great effort at the last from Kazizel. What's Furhan going to do? He's the last one across the line. He goes into the top 10 in 10th. Not a bad effort there.
Ghost is back.
And Ghost has joined, thankfully, but great last effort there from Kazizel. Wasn't really in the top 10 up to that point, but that's a good late effort. But I have to say, just for that final sector alone, Feynman does deserve that pole. That was absolutely stunning.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I mean, he needed 2 more tenths in the final sector, and that's exactly what he got in the end. And in the end, it's a very deserved pole position then. And we saw Ryan, I think he absolutely knew that he had to risk everything there in the last 2 corners through turns 17 and 18. And he risked everything, and he just risked that little bit too much. Went slightly wide and didn't have the best run, and that might have cost him pole position in the end. Second place, still a really good starting position, and might even be slightly better than first, considering the long run down into turn 2. But that's your starting grid for tonight. We've got Thyman on pole, Ryan in second, then we've got Kazizel, who basically came out of nowhere towards the end of the session, got 3rd place. Then we've got Maxwell on 4th, Cohen in 5th, Kush in 6th, Vapor Nuth in 7th. We saw him lose the rear end there in the final sector as well through that awkward left-right chicane. Then we've got Ghosts in 8th. Pretty good result from him considering he lagged out through the mid-stage of this quali session. Then we've got Boyrod in 9th, and Fairhan in the end rounds off the top 10. So those are the guys who will have to start on the softs. And I think a lot of guys outside the top 10 will probably start on the medium compound of tyre to try and do the reverse strategy.
It's probably the sensible thing to do, really. Maybe if you're in 11th or 12th, you can maybe try and start on softs if you prefer that strategy, but I think a lot of us towards the back end will be starting on mediums. And a couple of shocks in that qualifying session. Lower down, Luke, the championship leader, only starts 13th. And then the 2 Red Bulls, who are currently 3rd and 4th in the championship, only 16th and 18th for them. That's very surprising and very disappointing, especially for Jan, who we've already mentioned is coming off the back of 2 excellent results there. I think he'll be very disappointed to see himself so low down on the grid.
Yeah, we've got some drivers who will have a lot of catching up to do then in the end, and I think we've got a good fight upon our hands in between Ryan and Thyman for the race win, but I could absolutely see someone else also getting involved in that fight for the race win in the end. But we'll have to wait and see for that. Safety car, obviously a big factor in this race as well. So a lot of unpredictabilities coming up in this race. And I think this could be a really good race. Even though it's Russia, I think it could be really, really good.
Right, I've just been told by Kryptonite to set up a new lobby. I think we're having a change of lobby. I'm not sure as to why. Let me just try and find out. I'm not too sure, but I'm going to have to set up a new lobby now. So, thankfully, at least it's you that's streaming, so it shouldn't be too bad.
I'm trying to find out right now why that is happening.
I think he's just letting us know now.
Seems like... Is it because Ghost isn't in the session? Isn't Ghost in the session?
I'm guessing so. The Ghost has just said thank you, so I'm guessing that's...
He's in a... Yeah, he is not in the lobby either. So that's the reason why. I can totally understand that. So at the minute we've got to set up the new lobby. And I feel really sorry for you because you've got
Oh,
to.
I've got to set up a grid, haven't I?
Yes.
Oh
Um,
no.
I can
uh,
try and send you the grid if you want to, if it helps like at all.
oh, I think Ryan sent me a.
Yeah, I've got the entire grid for you if you need it. Just gonna send it to you even if you've already got it, but um
Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, I've got to customize the weather. That's what Ryan sent me. I see.
all right, I'll send you the grid so you can set it up. The problem is with the grid, you always gotta wait until everyone's in the lobby, or at least until most
Ah,
drivers are in the
okay.
lobby, because otherwise you won't be able to like move each driver up. Because every driver who joins will automatically be put to the back of the grid, which is not the best of features, if I'm honest.
No. Uh,
At the meantime, gonna have I'm gonna let the people take a look at the pole car, which is a Ferrari of Thyman. And I hate these moments when a lobby needs to be set up because, like, all the things I wanted to talk about, I've already talked about in the quali session itself. So that is always pretty difficult. Let's see if some guys in the chat. All right, chat. If any one of you has got something they want to talk about, or something we could talk about, please just put it in the chat. Give us a few jokes or something. We've got 18 viewers as well. 18 people are going to be absolutely bored now because we're just sitting here waiting for the lobby to fill up with drivers and then for you to be able to make the lobby.
yeah, and apologise for my lack of speech. I'm just trying to make sure I get everything right.
So for those 18 people who are currently watching, you can put in a couple of jokes. 20 people who are watching actually. I've noticed that. The amount of viewers is actually very very decent this season in PSGL, which I really like. I really love having more viewers, and 20 viewers at the minute for F4 is quite a good amount, I'd say. And generally the size of the PSGL channel with 1,110 subscribers, I think, is it the biggest league racing community? The biggest league on PS4? I think it is, isn't it?
Definitely up there now for sure, especially with the addition of the Xbox and the PC leagues.
Well, like can't I can't really think of a different league who could be with the same amount of subscribers or something. I think PSGL should be the biggest one. And we've got 21 viewers as well, just watching me sitting in the lobby waiting for the drivers to join so you can make the grid.
Yeah. I'm still trying to get the weather as well. Right, customize weather.
Was there some rain involved?
Yeah, it started off with sunny, then it went to cloudy, then there's a bit of rain at the end.
Ooh, interesting. Oh, that's a shame then that we now know that. I think it would have been quite a surprise
Yeah.
if we suddenly had some rain.
Apologies. Right. Wait a minute, there's like 7 blocks in. Okay. Okay, I'll go with.
Okay, we've got 18 drivers. By the way, you need to go in spectator mode, otherwise we'll have not
Yeah,
will
yeah,
not
no,
have
I'm
enough.
just because the settings are still being done. Okay. There we go. Okay.
Yep. Well, we've got
Actually, no,
all 20 drivers in.
I've
That's
got to
good.
do a grid, haven't I, before I do that?
I really feel sorry for you.
This is
Now
not,
having to do the grid.
never done this before, but
All you're supposed to do is commentate, and now you got to do the grids.
yeah. All right. Has someone put in the chat the grid order? Because
I send you it via Discord
thank you.
in the private chat.
Yep.
I was thinking about playing some elevator music in the background, but I'm a bit scared PSGL will get copyright strike for that. So
Yeah, you never know.
I'd rather not do that then. That would that's the right now that's the point where I would love to stream on PC, so I could just put in a different screen with like a waiting screen, and then us being able to mute us, or our voices to be muted, so we can just not having to talk without any music in the background.
Yeah, we're literally the top league that's not got like a PC streaming setup, if you like. I'm hoping to get that at some point, but it's not going to be for this season.
Thing is, if I can afford it at some point, I'm planning on buying a PC, and I think from then onwards I will try to start and stream from there with like a Elgato, and that would definitely up the quality of the stream. But until then, we still got to live with that PS4 stream, which is not too bad. I gotta say, we've got 60 FPS, we've got 720p, so not too bad. But we've got a PlayStation with the volume of a jet taking off.
Yeah, God, I mean, if anyone wondering, my PlayStation's still as loud as what it was before. I just have a headset that doesn't pick it up quite as much as it used to.
Yeah, the thing is, I've got a mic which, like, I've got a main input of the sounds which I'm talking into, but the rest also takes in some sound. Not that much, but still. And that's why you can hear my PlayStation in the background, which I'm very sorry for, but I literally have no chance to change it because the PS4 is the furthest away it could be from my microphone, but it's still too close, it looks like. Not gonna lie, I'm a bit annoyed that we haven't got the surprise of the weather now.
You did ask me. Don't blame me.
Yeah, I'm not blaming you. I'm just blaming the fact that the game is not able to let ghosts join properly back into the lobby without kicking him again. Sorry, get my words out.
Right, that should all be set up properly. I really hope it's all done correctly, and then we can get on with what should be a very exciting race, and it is Fireman and Ryan on the front row of the grid. Hopefully.
I hope so. Well, we're down to 40 viewers now, so it looks like about 6 people didn't enjoy that. We were just sitting in the lobby and talking to each other. It was almost like a podcast with a loud PlayStation in the background.
Yeah, I mean, it was like me trying to talk while also trying not to screw anything up. But yeah, that looks good. It's all nice and dry from the start. And who knows what weather could await us later on if you've just tuned in.
Who knows? We're not going to tell you.
No, it could be snow. You just don't know.
Some snow would be nice. Would spice up the race a little bit. We're back up to 14. Oh, we were back up to 15 viewers, but it got too boring for one guy who's just left the stream. Sorry for that one. But my job is not being an entertainer. My job is to commentate the race when it's actually happening. And I think Jake's speciality is not that he entertains the viewers while nothing happens either.
Yeah, and I can tell you one thing that's not my speciality, that's multitasking, which I was kind of doing then. But we are ready to go by the looks of things, and it's going to be interesting to see what the drivers outside the top 10 go for, with the potential for different weather later on. It'll be interesting if any drivers take that into account, perhaps. I'd still be shocked if I see anyone starting on hards, but you never know.
I really hope that everyone now chose the right tyre compound. Gonna hide the UI once again, and then we take a look at the tyres. And yes, everyone inside the top 10 managed to start on the softs. Everyone outside the top 10 decided to start on the mediums, so it's very easy for us today to talk about that. And so, Jake, do you think it's going to be a big advantage for the guys starting outside the top 10, starting on the mediums, having the fresher, the quicker compound towards the end of the race?
I think if they can get into a point where they're in a good position, the trick is not falling too far behind early on. But if they're in a decent spot, and as well, I think if they can stay within the DRS of somebody else, especially if it's a soft tyre runner, that puts them in a very strong position later on. And like you say, they could potentially run the mediums a bit longer as well and open up some different strategy options perhaps later on, but it's going to be really a case for them, for the medium tyre runners, how far the real front runners get ahead in the early stages, because I feel like Feynman and Ryan potentially have the potential to just run off into the distance if they can get into the rhythm early on. But we saw yesterday someone who started second was 6th out of turn 2, so you've got to make sure you get that start right.
Yeah, but we'll have to wait and see for the start. Luckily, the formation lap isn't as slow as it was yesterday in F7, because that was awfully slow. And now we've got actually racing just a few seconds away from us, and I hope it's going to be a good race, and I think it's going to be a good race, especially as we know that there's some rain coming later on in the race. And we see drivers warming up the tyres, and I just selected the position changes for the race start, so we can see who made up some good places, who didn't, and who lost some places. And I can imagine some big positioning changes happening, and we'll have to take a look at turn 1 as well, because even though it's just a little kink, it sometimes provides some big carnage then. Hopefully not, but I could see it happening.
It's such a... you don't even barely notice it at times, but like you say, if drivers get different starts around you, you can sometimes go there 4 abreast, and it's very difficult to give each other space while going flat out through it, even a little kink like that. So hopefully everyone gets through it unscathed, but we'll have to wait and see.
Lights are coming on now, and I don't know if that's actually right. No, it's not. And the drivers are probably going to rev up their engines very shortly. I would love to say favourite lights, but I can't. But they're probably going to be on now.
Can't see anything from my end.
Neither can I. The lights are already out for me. Can't hear any engine revving. Please don't tell me the lobby's glitched. And I think the lobby might be glitched.
Oh no. Oh no, not again, please.
Yeah, I think it might be.
A lot of people suggesting Ghost might need to leave.
He can rejoin if he wants. Yeah, Ghost is the only one. No, he's not. Kush also has got one bar connection. No, Ghost has taken the lead. What a brilliant game we've got this year.
You got to love it, haven't you?
Oh, and now it's we're lights out and away we go.
Oh,
that was quite out of nowhere, but it looks like it's a good start from Ryan in second place, and he's already alongside Feynman then as they run up down to turn 2, and there's the carnage we expected into turn 1, and that's some huge crashes in the background. And yes, Ryan has just taken the lead before the safety cars come out, and there's been a huge crash in the background, a lot of penalties in the back as well. Luke has got a pen, Kazisla's got a pen, so has Cohen. and that could spice up the order quite a lot then. And that start was kind of out of nowhere, but we've got a few guys. None of them is out, which surprises me because that was quite a big crash. But Vapornuth has absolutely lost every single part of his front wing. And he's lucky that there is a safety car now, because he will be right at the end of the pack then, and he will not lose an entire pit stop of time. Kryptonite seems to have gone through there without any damage, it looks like. Lucky for him then. He's down in 90 though, and Gabri's got some front wing damage, it looks like. That was the most anticlimactic start I've ever seen in my life, because I didn't think we would go, and suddenly the cars just went off.
It does almost make you wonder, were the drivers slightly caught out by it with all the carnage that we saw? I'm absolutely amazed Kryptonite's got no damage, because I saw the Renault just fly off. It looks like both Williams were affected as well. The other Renault Boyrod's dropped down. Obviously Vapornuth's the real one who's lost out because of that with his front wing loss. But it looks like those guys on the even side, if you will, second and fourth place starting drivers, really gained out of it, because Ryan made his way past Feynman and Max is past Kazizel, so definitely benefited those guys. And Feynman's got a bit of work to do, and we saw at Monaco he's not afraid to go for an overtake, so I suspect we may see some potentially very thrilling racing between the top two.
Well, it looks like Kryptonite has actually got some damage. It wasn't visible for us, but he has just found his way into the pit lane. Probably everyone is going on to hards then. No, they're not. Interesting, okay. Thought everyone would go into hards now and try to go to the end, but no, we've got Boyrod on mediums, we've got Jan on mediums, we've got Gabri on softs, then we've got Vapornuth on mediums, and Kryptonite is the only one to pit onto mediums. Interesting. Yesterday I had a crash into turn 1 on the first lap, and I pitted onto hards to try and go to the end, because that was the only choice really for me to not lose all the positions due to 2 pit stops. But yeah, basically I think Kryptonite is not in a bad position here. I mean, he is last, because Ghost isn't last. Kryptonite is currently in 20th place. That's just a timing glitch. But Kryptonite is last, but he's on hards. He doesn't need to make a single pit stop. And I doubt that everyone inside the top 10 can pull out an advantage of an entire pit stop window. And if they don't, they need to catch up all that time to Kryptonite and then make the overtake work. And the hards can easily go to the end. So I could see Kryptonite actually not being in a bad position. But remember, we've got Luke with a 5-second pen, we've got Cohen with a 5-second pen, and Kaziza with a 5-second pen.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing, some confusion, certainly amongst the 2 Alfa Romeo drivers as to why they've got a penalty, so expect that maybe those after the race might get put in the stewards, because it doesn't seem too aware of what's happened.
Yeah, but remember, they've got to serve it, and if you serve it, there's no way back, because Izzo decides to serve his pen now. Cohen also does the same. Will they pit onto hards now? That is the question I've got in my mind. Will they pit onto hards to make it work to the end?
It's definitely worth a shout. I mean, because of the position they're in, they've kind of got to try something different.
Okay.
Oh.
Mediums for both of them. Okay. That's interesting then. So they just go for the reverse strategy.
Well, of course, without once again going into the weather spoiler, you know, maybe the fact that there could be rain later on, maybe they're thinking we can take the mediums up to the rain. That is another consideration.
I love the fact that you said there could be rain at the end.
Who knows? Look, I'm...
I've got a feeling there's going to be rain at some point. I just got the feeling. Don't ask me why, but I just got a feeling. But seriously, the thing is, I have absolutely no idea when the last spot of the weather slot starts. And that's the thing. And I don't know how quickly the track will become wet enough for Inters.
No, that's really going to be the key. And I tell you what, for those, you mentioned how much of a good thing it'll be for those who started on mediums. The likes of McCrew, Luke and Loic already up into 6th, 7th and 8th places because of all the carnage. That's worked out quite beautifully for them, although I say that, I don't actually know where Ghost fits into this equation, because it says he's last, but he's not. He's in 8th, he's behind Luke.
Okay.
So that's where Ghost fits into this equation, but nevertheless... Got Furhan up in 5th, you got Loic, who started near the backup in 8th. It's really mixed up the field, this, and it's going to be interesting on the restart to see what the leading medium tyre runners can do against us on softs.
By the way, I loved the voice crack earlier on. I know you tried to overshadow it by just talking over it, but I heard that. And the safety car is coming in this lap, so that's good for us. We'll have more laps of racing then, because everyone is caught up and there's no reason for the safety car to stay out another lap. And now it's all in Ryan's hands to control the pace, and I'm curious to see where he will end up. And Lucas just got his second 5-second pen.
It's a collision with Ghost. Ghost.
Oh, and now he's gone. Ryan has just gone right before the penultimate corner. That seemed like a good safety car restart from him then. And he's already built up a gap of 7/10. That was a solid restart. 6/10 it actually is. And let's see if in the background we can see some overtakes. Luke is pretty close to the rear of McCrew, but will he go for a move? No, I think he's just that little bit too far away for now. But he might be under pressure from the car behind, which is Ghosts, but no, not quite. Ghost was just a bit too far away, and I hate the fact that the timing is glitched and it says Ghost is behind me.
I've also got on my screen at least, oh, and look at, it's going up the inside, that's going to be brave from Luke. He goes past McCrew and Ghost tries to get involved as well. They're going 3 wide, this is going to be brave.
Oh, and there's contact.
Yeah, there's contact. Ghost is ghosted on my screen, ironically. But he slots him behind. Oh, and there was nearly more contact between McCrew and Luke. And, well, I almost feel like the medium tyre runners need to work together here to stay in touch with the leading group, but they're certainly not doing that so far.
No, they're absolutely going for it at the minute. It looks like Luke is going to get that position from McCrew now. He was in the slipstream. Now he's got a lot of pace on them straight here. Seems like his straight line speed is quite well, but he's used all of his overtake he could have used on that lap, and now he has to back out of it. So not a smart usage from Luke's side. And yeah, it looks like now Luke might actually be able to get that 5-second pen removed, because you could say that the 5-second he will serve now is from the collision with Ghosts, and the other one he can remove.
Yeah, that's one positive side for him, as Ryan's already trying to pull away from Fireman, but Fireman's staying pretty close to him within half a second, so still pretty close at the front. The top 3, of course, have built that gap now thanks to what was going off behind. And I don't think it's over yet, because you can see the massive queue of cars behind McCrew, and of course he's lost the DRS to the car in front now, so that really makes him vulnerable.
Is it only on my screen, or is there yellow flags on the entire track?
I've got yellow flags on the entire track as well, but to be fair, I've had that since the restart, and we definitely saw some changes in position.
Yeah, so I hope that isn't an issue, and we've got, ignoring yellow flag. So it's for the drivers as well, and that is literally one of the worst games I've ever seen.
This is gonna make this race
Ghost
very...
has just parked up on my screen.
Let's have a look.
And now he's gone again.
Yeah, I've got that on my screen as well. Ghost just cruising at the back. That's very bizarre. This is very, very confusing, this race.
This lobby is so glitched, and Loic and Simply just got penalties for passing on the yellow flags, but the entire track was filled with yellow flags, so we might have to restart once again, I feel like.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to have another restart here.
Because everyone who will overtake now will have will get a 5-second penalty, and it says DRS enabled, but it's no use if you're not allowed to overtake.
Yeah, Ghost, I think, has pulled up for that precise reason. He says because the yellows are out constantly, there's not much point in him doing anything. So, yeah, this is... Now we've got Boss Wanted making a move on Simply, but I wonder if we're almost just giving each other the positions back because of the yellow flag glitch.
This game. I think at this point we might restart as well with a 25% race.
Not too sure. I'm keeping the Discord up just in case there's any communications, but I'm not hearing anything so far. But of course, there's not much really we could talk about in terms of potential overtakes because, well, you can't make any.
Yeah, that's oh, this game is really something else, and it really annoys me. Okay, Jules said they can overtake, but I just saw Simply and Loic both get a penalty for not.
Well, because Izzle's just gone past Vape and New further down the field, and that seems to have gone okay, and they're still pretty close.
For Loic and Simply, for example, it said 5-second penalty, ignoring yellow flags.
Yeah, and they're going side by side into at the end of a straight, push slightly wide. There was a McLaren, but he's going to fight it back. They're almost going free wide here.
No!
Now Cohen's, it's all gone wrong for Cohen. He tried to make it free wide, and he's been hit into the wall. It's gone wrong for him, and his race has really gone downhill. He was one of the drivers, of course, who picked up a 5-second penalty, and his race just has gone from bad to worse.
Gotta say, good, fair play to Max Rowe at the minute. He's in third place, and he's absolutely in the fight for the race win at the minute. And yeah, Sparks has just said Ghost told him that they are able to overtake, and it looks like they are able to overtake, even though we saw two drivers get a penalty for ignoring yellow flags, but I hope that's just not the case.
Ghost is saying he won't let them overtake, so I think it's almost dependent on who you are.
This game is just...
Because so we saw some drivers get penalties for it, but yet other drivers can fight. I'll be interested. I almost want the top three to have a go at this, because I want to see what happens with these three, because this is a close battle at the moment. Fair play to Max, he's doing a good job staying so close to him right now. Oh,
yeah, I think it's round. We would see the yellow flags if there wasn't a glitch, and yes, he's got his front right end plate missing and big parts of his right hand side of front wing.
Well, he's got a lot more missing now.
Oh, that was... Sorry to laugh there, but your comment was brilliant.
I'm just surprised. I mean, he started in third place, had such a good qualifying, and then, yeah, with damage, he just went straight into another wall, so...
a lot more damage now. And, Ghost has just got a pen for a severe collision with Luke. I think this lobby is absolutely glitched. Not gonna lie, I think this lobby is absolutely glitched. And someone in the chat just said, what's the point? And I absolutely agree.
It's probably worth restarting at this point, but I mean, Gabri's now left the session as well. Because Izzle's retired. I mean, I'm not surprised. He probably thought, well, if I'm going to lose a bit of my wing, I might as well lose it all.
He said, I retired because the whole grid can't overtake anyone. Yeah, I think it's not really worth. The problem is I haven't... we've not got any yellow flags anymore. I can't believe it.
Well, that's unbelievable. I don't believe it. All of a sudden we're back to... Well, we've not got yellow flags anymore.
Yeah, it's really difficult to commentate over this race, not going to lie, just because we don't really know what's going on. The lobby is quite glitched. We've had yellow flags for such a long time, and now you can finally overtake, and we've already got overcast conditions, so that's quite a bizarre race, I'd call it, to put it in a nice way.
Yeah, I can only apologise to the drivers and obviously you guys watching. It's obviously not what you'd want to see. It's not what we want to see, and we can only hope that from now on at least we get some sort of race. But sadly, unfortunately, we've already had some drivers that have kind of been taken out of the equation through no fault of their own, so it's really a shame for them, and we can only hope that at least the rest of this race we do get some drama. But for the likes of Kazizzle, Ghost, and a few others, their race has already been ruined, sadly.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult situation for the drivers as well, because they're not really sure what's going on. They're not really sure if they're allowed to overtake, even if they could. And they don't really know if it's going to be restarted or not. If we restart, I'd suggest we do a 25% race from now on, because otherwise it's just going to take too long, and Thyman just slightly went wide. and it looks like Fireman is keeping up with Ryan, but so is Max with Diamond. So Max is doing a really good job at the minute and could hope for some penalties further up ahead from those two guys who are driving in front of him at the minute. And yeah, thing is, Jordan now retired, and I feel really sorry for him because he didn't see a point in racing, which I can totally understand. And now the glitch is gone, and his points are completely gone.
Yeah, it's a real shame for him. He put in such a good effort in qualifying, and it's just things out of his control of, unfortunately, put paid to his race, and it's just one of those, unfortunately. Can't do anything about it, and we can only hope that in future that these glitches are less often, shall we say. And I suppose in terms of the top three at the moment, yeah, like you say, Max is doing a superb job keeping up with the top two, and Fireman looking ever closer to Ryan. Of course, now they can overtake. We assume that's the same for everyone. We don't really can never be too sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't think at the moment. I almost feel like Fireman would be a lot more attacking towards Ryan if Max wasn't there. Max is almost... Because Max is there, it's difficult for Fireman to really go for it because he could easily lose a position while trying to gain one.
Yeah, Fireman is saving a lot of VRS, and Ryan, though, has got a lot of VRS as well, so... And so is Max, so it's not really worth for them to wait for an overtake. Because... Ryan's got such a big amount of VRS left as well, and he's not really losing much either, so I don't know if that's the right strategy from Fireman, but we'll have to wait and see for that. I feel like Fireman could actually go a bit quicker than that, but it might also be the DRS that carries him along. But he's not losing that much time, even though he's in the dirty air there. And he's doing a good job at the minute, and I think towards the end of the race especially, we could have a big fight for the race win.
You mentioned earlier about Kryptonite's hard tyre strategy potentially working out quite well for him. How do you think it's going for him so far? Do you still think he could be in a good position? As what's happened to Simply? He's lost a lot of positions all of a sudden, Simply.
And fans in the pits.
Oh, and there's more contact between Simply and Jan, and now the two McLarens going side by side through the final corner. So yeah, Simply's just lost about 5 positions in one go there, so I think unfortunately I didn't see what happened to him, but he's now going to lose another position to Kryptonite, who I was just about to mention on the hard tyres. Not working out too badly for him at the moment. I mean, there's not much more he can do with the trainer cars he's in, and of course those guys are all mediums, so it's all going to really come down to how the weather develops.
Well, to come back to a question, I think it's really a pretty good situation at the minute for Kryptonite. He's currently 18 seconds behind the leader, which is Ryan, so he's still within the pit stop window, which is good for him because he will be ahead of him then as soon as Ryan pits, which won't be in a too distant future, as Kryptonite completely loses the rear end there and did well to keep the car on track. Just lost him half a second to the leader there, and I think he's in a pretty good position, especially if the rain comes at the right moment for him. But if you take a look at his ERS amount, it's not really that much, so it's not really going to be easy for him to keep the lead then. If he actually,
the top three are all in the pits.
Well, let's see if something changes there then. Oh, there's rain. Did I just see some rain? Thought I saw some rain. No, okay, I didn't. Sorry.
It's alright.
It looked like in the middle there was a little raindrop that came down the halo, but there wasn't, sorry.
You're a little bit surprised to see all the top 3 in on the same lap?
Not really, because I think just generally you wouldn't want to try something that different to the other cars if you're already within that top group, because then you can't do much wrong if you... let's take a look at Ryan. Will he come out ahead of Cohen? It's going to be close. They're going to be side by side coming down into turn 2. But yeah, looks like Ryan kept the spot, but he completely goes wide, cuts the corner, and that might lose him the spot to Cohen now. Will Cohen actually try to go for the overtake? I don't think he will. No, he doesn't. But Ryan, that was a bit... Well, you could say that he cut the corner, got a warning for it, so it's alright, but felt like that was a bit on purpose, just to stay ahead.
It was such a crucial moment in the race because not only him getting in front of Cohen, but it now means that Feynman and Max are going to be stuck behind Cohen. So he knew how crucial it was. It's debatable as to what have ways in which he did it. Of course, he would have been on cold tyres, so maybe he got slightly caught out by that. But
reminds me a little bit of Hamilton in Mexico 2016, where he just completely cut turns 1 and 2, and he didn't get penned for it. And we saw Feynman going for it already. As I can't get the camera properly, and he's done the move already. I'm sorry I didn't catch that at all, but I just misclicked on my pad, so I couldn't really change the camera view. I was on the camera type instead of driver selection. And Kush has already dived into the pits as well. And everyone else is staying out because they're all on mediums. Do you think the medium runners could maybe actually go till the rain comes?
Well, we've got a potential here fight for the provisional lead as well as Luke goes down the inside of McCrew, and this could be a fight for the lead now, because if they can keep these tyres going, and I mean we haven't got rain yet, you teased it. Oh, Max! So Max has made a crucial move as well, and I'm a little bit surprised. I know Cohen's tyres have got a few laps on them, but we know Cohen's a quick driver. I'm surprised that they've got past him as quickly as they have, to be honest. I thought maybe he would have been able to keep him behind a little bit longer. We know Feynman's a very attacking driver, though, and obviously he would have been keen to get that move done as quickly as possible. And in the end, it hasn't worked out too badly for Feynman. Ryan hasn't really escaped up the road that quickly, so it very much is as you were between the top three.
It's an interesting race at the minute, I feel like, and it's very much unknown because we don't quite know when the rain's going to come in. Obviously, it's the last spot on the customized weather, but we don't exactly know when it's going to come, especially due to that safety car. It looks pretty overcast already, but the question is, when will that rain actually come, and when will it be ready for intermediate tyres, or will it at all be ready for intermediate tyres, or is it just going to be that weird situation where it's wet but it's not wet enough for inters and the slicks are still quicker? But we'll have to wait and see for that. And the medium runners are in a pretty good situation, I'd say. And right now, Ryan and Feynman and Max, who've been leading the way constantly from the start of the race onwards, are now in a situation which I wouldn't really say is comfortable. I'd say it's a risky situation. It's very unknown.
And it's not going to be too many laps now until they catch up with that huge train of cars, because you go down from Boss Wanted in third, everyone's within a second of each other from there, so even with better tyres, that's not going to be an easy group to get through, because they're all going to have DRS. So it's going to be a crucial point in the race here, and depending when the rain arrives, Luke, who we thought was going to struggle after he qualified outside the top 10, is suddenly in a really strong position.
Keep in mind that Luke has to serve a 5-second pen, so he's desperately trying to get a 5-second gap to the cars behind so he won't get jumped in the pit lane. But it's going to be a difficult task for him. But obviously, Boss Wanted at some point will probably have to defend from his teammate Dan, who's sitting right behind him. And I feel like if you're so close to the car in front, you could actually go slightly quicker than that if you would actually have clean air.
That's going to be a really, I think, a potentially quite a fiery battle between the two racing points, because it's going to be crucial to be the leading one out of the two, because if it does rain they have to go on to inters, it's going to be absolutely pivotal to be the leading one of us two, because the last thing you want to do is have to queue up behind your teammate. So it's going to be crucial here for Danny. He wants to get past his teammate. He will not want to end up, because if he has to queue in the pits, he could end up falling to the back of this group of cars quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the minute, it's just a very unknown situation, and we can see Ryan is getting closer and closer to the back of Simply. And at the minute, it's a very interesting and odd race. It's not really clear who's going to be on the top step in the end. Usually, you'd have like the possible, or at least some hints who's going to be fighting for the race win, but now you absolutely don't, because you don't know when the rain is coming in, you don't know how long the tyres will last, and you don't know how the penalties will pan out. But I'd say at the minute, if McCrew can look after his tyres very well, in those next couple of laps. I think it could be someone to watch out for till the end of the race.
Yeah, he'll know that Luke has a penalty in front of him, so he doesn't really need. He's probably better off just staying within a second of Luke, collecting the DRS, and just allowing Luke to set the pace. Because the only thing they're going to achieve if they do battle hard is they're going to lose each other time, which they can ill afford to do. McCrew, especially at this stage. So he's in a good position right now, and he doesn't need to go all out aggressive to try and get past Luke. He can just follow him, and we know Luke is the championship leader, so he's not a slow driver. So for me, McCrew just needs to stay behind Luke and just run his own race right now. And I guess at the moment, those on medium tyres are just looking up to the heavens and hoping this rain falls quickly.
And Ryan has just made the first move, and I'm once again on the wrong thing to look at it. And yes, there we are. Ryan just went past Simply there. And it's probably not going to be long until he goes past Kryptonite as well. Will they actually go for a move into here? I don't think he will. No.
Oh, Fireman down the inside of Simply. He's made the move stick. That was a very brave move around the outside of the long turn 4. And
today I've got a talent of missing every single overtake, and Lucas just picked up his first 3-second pen, and Max also has made the move on Simply, so Simply is losing places left, right and centre, it looks like. But yeah, I've missed every single move so far in this race. Good job.
Well, actually, now that I've looked at it, that's not Luke's first corner cutting penalty, that's his second. So he's got 10 seconds worth of 5-second penalties, but then he's also got 16 seconds altogether, so that's his second corner cutting penalty. So yeah, even without those penalties that he's got quite harshly, it would appear, he needs to be a bit more careful with track limits, it would suggest.
And you can see that Fireman is desperate to get past this runner of Kryptonite here, because he's on a lot fresher medium tyres with someone in the pit lane, which is Dan, and also Dan
dear,
was wanted.
That's
the only two people who are pitting who are on mediums are the two teammates.
I was about to say, Dan's crucially got in front of his teammate.
Oh, Ryan's in a difficult situation now. Sorry to interrupt you there, but there goes Jan down the inside of Nuth, and they make contact. Nuth gets pushed off wide, and it looks like he's going to rejoin the track very unsafely, and that's very difficult for Ryan at the minute. He makes contact with Jan, but he gets the move done, it looks like. But Jan is still on the inside for the right-hander here, and he's given the space from Ryan, and Ryan has made the move stick around the outside. That was such a difficult situation, but look at Thyman, he tries to make use of that, and he gets a tap! Oh, and he's just kept it out the wall. He's still side by side now into the right end, he backs out though, and that was so close to being into the wall and out of the race, but Thyman has managed to stay on track, but now he's under threat from Maxwell behind him, and he needs to try and get past Jan as quickly as possible now.
Well, there's only one way. As Fireman tries to get past Jan straight away, like you suggested he should, he's going to have the inside line for this right-hander. Surely it's a done deal. Yeah, we can brake later on those softer tyres.
Oh,
Max has a massive moment. Oh, that was really close to him losing the car completely. In his eagerness potentially to try and follow Fireman through. Well, this is a real bizarre point of a race now where they're trying to get on with it, and we've got another guy in the pits by the looks of it. I'm trying to see who that is. It's Loic. I thought you were about to say Loic and Jan. I was really worried that Red Bull were going to recreate Racing Point mistake from the previous lap. But Ryan's really on the march now. He's looking like he's going to get past Vapor Noob as well. As Boyrod moves past Super Mario, is Ryan going to have the inside? He is. And Vapor Noob didn't really make it too difficult for Ryan in the end. So I think he'll be quite relieved, Ryan. He's had a more simple overtake than what he had last lap.
Yeah, Max went past Jan as well, and now Thyman's stuck behind Vapanu, and it looks like they're both going equally well, all three are going equally well through that traffic. I mean, Ryan has not got a big gap through the traffic, but all three of them are doing quite a solid job so far to get past all of them. But look at the ERS amount of Thyman and Ryan, and also Max. All of them have used quite a lot of ERS.
These guys that are just hanging on to these mediums waiting for the rain, is it just not going to happen for them? A lot of the drivers have decided to bail out on the strategy and pit the softs. but you've got other drivers out there still trying to make it last. But, I mean...
Oh, someone just went wide. It's Kush as he's side by side with Kryptonite, but he kept the spot, it looks like. Kept defending there, but he went really wide. That was really close to the wall.
I mean, look how quickly they're
look
making
at time,
their way.
Oh, I thought he was going to go for a move into the penultimate corner. He is now going into the final corner, and he gets the move done. That was quite surprising, not going to lie. That was a pretty good move, but now Maxwell is going to take that spot, and maybe he's going to take that spot away from Thyman now, as well as Thyman is not able to shut the door completely on him. And as they come down into turn 2, they're going to go side by side in the brakery zone, and maybe Maxwell is going to go into net P2 here. But no, they're still side by side. Thyman defends very well on the inside. He's got the inside line, but it's going to turn into the outside line for the right-hander now, as they're still side by side, and it looks like it's now going to be Max's position. But no, not quite. Max pushes him off, but Thyman is still on the outside and still side by side. And now Max has got the inside line once again, and he pushes him off completely.
And Thyman still keeps the position, and Vapanu thinks, alright, I'll have a bit of that, and gets in between the pair of them.
So Max, instead of gaining a position, just lost the position to Vapanu again. That was quite aggressive from both drivers, I'm not going to lie. And in the meantime, Ryan says, thank you very much. I'm just going to pause everyone here. And he's already up into third. Probably going to be second now.
Yeah, he's got me outside to Boyer, who I don't think is going to fight it too much. He doesn't. He's just got no grip left on the tyres. And Ryan can now set about closing down his championship leader, who right now has only got one word on his mind, and that's rain. He needs it to fall, and quickly.
It's an interesting situation at the minute, not going to lie. Thyman definitely lost quite a lot of time here. And we've got 8 laps remaining in this race. Now as they've crossed the line.
And one thing that's worth noting here, kind of come out of the blue, but Kush, who was kind of a couple of seconds adrift for the first stint, is now right on the back of Max, and he's having a go into turn 1 round the outside. It looks on my end like Max is lagging slightly, but he keeps the position ahead of Kush. But Kush all of a sudden is coming into play against Max now too.
Has Max maybe got some front wing damage here?
It wouldn't surprise me. He's not really sticking to the back of Vapanoop anymore, so just trying to see on his wing. I can't see any clear damage, but he's obviously, like you say, he must have a bit, because he's not running at the sort of pace you should be expecting him to run, and Thyman is just continuing to cut his way through the field, now behind Super Mario for 4.
Oh, and I'm very sorry, but I gotta leave you for a second. I'm gonna stay on the broadcast view with Thyman, but I'll be right back. I'm very sorry.
So we've got Thyman now on the back of Super Mario, this for 4th place. And Ryan's cut his way through the field brilliantly, while Thyman and Max have struggled somewhat. Surprising in a way, because Thyman, we saw in Monaco, was really good at cutting his way through cars. But just being the lead group in the trainers paid off handsomely for Ryan thus far. Oh, surely he's going to have a go into the penultimate corner. He's got so much better traction. Nothing Super Mario can do, and Thyman is up the inside line into turn 17 and gets the position done now up into P4. And next up will be Boyrod. Thyman's really charging at the moment, but he'll know that Ryan's pretty much disappeared down the road now. And he'll be hoping against all hope that, well, that he can close in, but it's going to be tough from now as Kush makes a move on Vapanouf. That's for 7th place. So Max and Kush rather have made their way past the McLaren, but there is question marks over to whether Max has a little bit of damage, or maybe he just went out the rhythm briefly. But either way, now he's starting to make his way back through. As Jam picks up a penalty, he's way down in 16th. Both Red Bulls, of course, pitting, abandoning that medium strategy. And they're going to struggle to score points unless the rain really comes down towards the latter stages. You can see the way Ryan's closing down Luke. I've got to say, though, Luke's pace on those worn tyres isn't too bad, as Thyman goes to the outside on Boyrod and makes the position stick into P3, so his charge continues again. Boyrod quite sensibly not putting up too much of a fight, and Thyman now up into 3rd place.
Yes, I'm very sorry about that, but I'm back now. I'm very sorry.
No worries, Fireman just made a few more positions up and he's now got no one in between him and Ryan. And Ryan's not escaped as far down the road as I thought he was going to.
Yeah, only 8 tenths now actually. Maybe he's got some worn tyres as well, but Bax is now on his way to move up into 5th place, and Luke's still out on that first set of mediums he's got there. And there goes Max then down the inside into turn 2, and that's an easy move for him. That's P5, and there's the rain that Luke absolutely needed. The question is now, how heavy is the rain going to be? How quickly will it be intermediate conditions? I reckon it's at least going to take 2 to 3 laps, and that might be too much for Luke. But if he can actually stay out until the inters are needed, then he might have a chance to get a really good result here. But still, Ryan in the net lead at the minute, just because of Luke's penalties as well.
It must be thanking his lucky stars that it's A, raining, and B, that it's Russia, because he's been able to hold on to those medium tyres an awfully long time. And even now, like, Ryan is closing in, of course, on Luke, but it's not by as much as you'd think he would be.
Kush just got past Super Mario and intercept the goals. But that's the thing about this game, you never really know how quickly the rain will fall and how quickly the inters will be quicker than the softs, and when the point is where you actually lose some grip. And that's actually a thing I like about this game, that it actually differs from race to race, and it changes from race to race instead of just being the same on all the other previous games. Because sometimes you've got a stage where the inters are on the same pace as the slicks for a couple of laps, and then suddenly the inters are quicker. And I really like that, because usually it was like the rain comes, 2 laps later you pit onto inters. But now you're not really sure, and it's just suited to the race itself, so you can't really say it about any race that is happening.
I just wonder, I don't know if Ryan's got damage or something, but he's not got a lot of pace right now, and Fireman's getting ever closer to the back of him. They've dropped Max at least. I suppose that's one plus point from their perspective. Max seems to have recovered somewhat. He's now on the back of Boyrod for 4th, but yeah, it's looking like it could be a three-way fight for the lead, but it's all going to be about how quickly this rain falls. Yeah, Ryan just not coping at all well at the moment. Like I say, I wonder if there's just something wrong about Mercedes' car, but yeah, they're going to need to, for the sake of those drivers who've stayed out on those mediums for a really long time, they're going to be hoping they can switch to inters in the next few laps, otherwise that strategy could come falling apart.
Because look at how much they're sliding. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just saw that from Ryan and Fireman, how slowly they were taking the last sector there. And I think it's not too far away. I think we could actually see a few pit stops. I mean, obviously the medium runners who have been on that same set of tyres since the start of the race will have to make a pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised if Luke especially maybe comes in at the end of this lap, even if... Oh, and Luke's gone! Luke has spun! He's had a half spin, he's managed to recover it. He may have got away with that damage, but his tyres there just did not pick up the traction at all. And now Ryan can see his championship rival firmly within reach. Now, I don't think Luke's got much grip to fight with on those tyres now. He's going to surely be in at the end of this lap, whether it's ready for inters or not.
Yeah, he basically has to now. That's the sign he needed to say, okay, mate, that's enough on these tyres. They won't go any longer than that. And they won't deliver any pace longer than that. So basically he will have to pit on this lap, otherwise he's going to probably crash out or get a puncture at some point. And the red lights on the cars are already on, but I wonder who will pit for inters and who will stay out. I definitely know that Luke will pit.
Ryan goes for the lead.
Pit.
And Ryan gets the lead off Luke. Luke, quite sensibly, I think, just doesn't really fight it. I mean, he's fighting a car enough as it is. I don't think he needs to be fighting for position as well. And what will drivers do on this lap? Oh, Luke's nearly lost it again! And Fireman looks for a move around the outside. Luke's surely going to pit. Yes, he is. He's coming in the pits. No surprise there. He might struggle to get it into the pits somewhat, but he's managed, thankfully, coming to the pits, but that was a roller coaster.
Maxwell
of
pits.
DRS disabled.
Oh,
DRS has
that
been
might
disabled.
have been the perfect moment. The question is, the track around Russia is pretty long in terms of distance. So will the Inter runners gain enough time within those 3 laps to catch back up to the slick runners? Because you can see how much Ryan understeers now, and the Inters are definitely quicker at this point. But how much heavier will the rain get? Will it be undrivable towards the end of the race? That is the big question now, as Ryan once again locks up, and everyone is struggling for traction right now. And I think Maxwell has not got a bad chance at getting a podium here. Even though he's so far behind at the minute, I don't think it's unrealistic. He's currently 28 seconds behind, but he's going to gain at massive amounts of speeds.
And those drivers that came in early for softs, they're starting to make their way through the field as well. We got McCrew and Dan starting to make up time because, of course, even with tricky conditions like this, it's going to be so much beneficial to be on not so worn softs compared to these really old mediums and hards. But other drivers are, and you can see Cohen now struggling as well. So both Alfa Romeos really not dealing well with the worn tyres. And we got Cush and Boyrod fighting for P3. And Cush is going to take that position, understandably, on the fresher tyres. But I expect to see everybody in the pits now. And will Cush get held up slightly, I wonder?
I think actually we will see some cars that are going to stay out and risk it. Yeah, that's Ryan.
But wow, so Ryan's... So all the drivers are going to try and stick it out on the dry tyres.
Pits.
Well, those on old tyres have surely got to try and have got to try and pit because you just have no grip on those tyres. But Boyrod is braving it, I have to say. That is a brave decision from Boyrod on 23 lap old mediums. This is either going to end up with a brilliant result for him, or it's going to end up in a war, I suspect, because there's going to be no grip left on those tyres now, surely.
You have 3 laps to go. The gap between Max and the leaders, 25 seconds, and it's coming down massively. And you could see how much those guys are struggling there on the slicks. Let's go on board with Ryan. You can see how carefully he has to drive through here. And he's losing the rear end everywhere. And the track is absolutely Inter ready. The Inters are absolutely the fastest tyres. And you can see how much Max is catching at the minute. It's already come down to 23 seconds now. And he will gain even more now when he comes around that middle sector. And I think the Inter runners will have a lot better chances to get a good result instead of the slick runners, because if I go on board with Ryan, and we know how quick Ryan is around here, he's struggling so much and he's going so slowly, and Max has already passed the first one on the slicks, and look at the grip he's got in comparison to the others. And
we've got Yelfog in sector 2 because Dan has gone round. He's one of us who stayed out on the sauce and he's got no grip left. And he's gone for a spin. That's going to cost him probably a chance at points with those fast Inter runners coming through. And in fact, it was nearly contact between Max and Dan as Max tries to rush his way to the front of the field. I think Max
might have a chance of winning.
This is going to be super close.
Call me crazy, but I think he might have a chance of winning. Look at the amount he's gaining on the leading pack.
And
he's just gained about 10 seconds. Well. And down the inside he goes, off Cohen. It's as easy as taking candy from a baby at the minute from Max Rowe, and it's already come down to 13 seconds. I could see him winning this race. The track is so long, he might be the race winner.
This would be an incredible drive. He's right behind Kryptonite. He's going to have so much more traction. It's going to be a simple move for him.
Also,
up to
Luke.
6 now. Yeah, Luke as well at number 1. Super Mario too.
McCrew is going to be the next on Maxwell's list. Maxwell locks up the inside front, but still gains incredible amounts. And yeah, McCrew is an easy pass once again, and it's definitely going to be a podium. Will it be the race win as well? The gap is not big. The gap is coming down more and more on this final lap of this race. He's into P4 now, Max Rowe is, and he might get his race win here in Russia today with a brilliant strategy. 6 seconds, and I think he will make it, because now there's the middle sector, and especially in that last sector, he's going to gain massive amounts of time.
Fireman had a massive moment there. They're just trying to keep the cars on the road at this point. Max is going to be able to turn this around. I tell you what, Luke's got a chance too.
Look at Max. Max is going to win this race. Look at this traction, and he's already passed Kush, and now he's going to pass Thymen, sorry. On to turn 13 he goes then. That's turn 12 and that's turn 13, and now it's one single sector remaining for Maxro. Can he make the pass? It should be an easy one on Ryan, and he might be able to make the pass already now as Ryan defends the outside line. Can he find a way through? He's gone for the outside. He's gone around the outside and he's taken the lead.
And Ryan's gone! Ryan's gone round! So he's lost out
look at
massively!
That! Luke as well!
Luke's
Super
gone
Mario's
too.
in P4. Super Mario might take a podium.
And Kush has got past his teammate. They're going 3 wide into the final corner.
Oh, it's going to be a photo finish.
Super Mario gets second. Fiven's third. Luke slips down because of all his penalties. I don't quite believe what I've seen at the end of his race. But Max has made it work on those inters and takes an unbelievable win. And Super Mario grabs second with a photo finish between 3 cars going around the final corner. Wow.
My goodness me, that was a hell of a finish in this race, and I absolutely loved every second of it, seeing Max catching up. And I told you, call me crazy, but he might win this race. He was 23 seconds behind, 2 laps to the end, and in the end he's won it. And driver of the day, I'm sorry Super Mario, that was a great drive as well, finishing P2 with the same strat, but that was definitely the day for Max. Max, incredible drive, takes a selfie on the podium, and in the end he wins the race with a brilliant strategy.
And it's worth saying as well, Max was up near the front already, so it was sort of a gamble for him to take on the Inters as he saw everyone else stay out, but he went with it, and it's paid off handsomely for him. He was looking good for a podium anyway, but he's turned it into a race win. Whereas Super Mario probably had a bit less to lose, so to speak, because he was a bit further down. But Max had a lot to lose if it didn't pay off, but he took the gamble, and wow, has it worked out.
Wow, what a finish. What a last lap we've seen. What a last couple of laps we've seen. Max, in the end, takes the race win on Inters after gaining 26 seconds, I believe it was, after he made that pit stop, within 3 laps, and winning the race on the final lap in the final sector. Super Mario takes second. Great drive from him from 15th on the grid. Great strategy. Only 1 stop made from him, and he finished on the Inter tyres. Thymen held on pretty well. He still finished 3rd. Still a podium for him. Good drive. Kush takes 4th. Ryan, then disappointing end, 5th. Then after being in the lead pretty much for the entirety of the race, at least the net lead. And we've got Nuth in 6th, Boyrod in 7th, Ferhan in 8th, Kryptonite in 9th, and McCrew in 10th. And Luke even dropped outside the points due to his penalties, but might still get 1 or 2 points. If he gets that penalty removed, that might be P8 then for him, at least some points. But yeah, he got damage on the last lap as well when he tried to pass the slick runners. But my goodness me, what a race finish we've had, and I think that was the most exciting finish to a race I've ever had.
Yeah, we took a while to get things up and running, but that last lap was worth it alone. That was absolutely stunning, and I get Ryan's determination to try and hold on to that win, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he was almost better off conceding that one to Max there and maybe just trying to make sure he kept it on the road more than anything else?
I'm not sure. I mean, the conditions were so tricky in the end. Just seeing the drivers slide around, it was absolutely wet on the track, so there was literally no grip for the slick runners, and in the end it was basically inevitable. We saw Thymen as well almost losing it, but yeah, I think he fought it maybe just that little bit too much in the end. That race was already gone as soon as he crossed that start-finish line to start his final lap, because Maxwell was just so blisteringly quick on the Inters. And yeah, I think in the end he should have played it safe to take second then in the end, but yeah, to drop down to 5th is obviously not what he wants. But yeah, he still gained some points on his championship rival, and 5th place still isn't too bad.
That's very true, and it was such a crazy race, and fair play to Max and Super Mario for cutting through the field on those intermediates. It was such a joy to behold seeing those last few laps unfold. And wow, this championship we haven't really got someone who's running away with it, and I get the feeling that's only going to continue because once again we've seen just how fine the margins are in F4.
Yeah, that was a brilliant race, and I was really surprised by Russia today that they've delivered such a good show, especially after such an odd start, after such an awful start to the race with the yellow flag glitch and drivers not being able to pass each other. But yeah, I'm glad it became a thriller towards the end, and as you can maybe hear, my voice isn't at the greatest stage anymore, in the greatest condition anymore. So yeah, I need to give it a rest. And that final lap was incredible. Fair play to Max to take the race win. Also, fair play to Super Mario, took second in the end with the same strat as Max. And Thyman held on pretty well to that podium, considering he was on that slick tyre, which was absolutely undrivable on the last lap. But yeah, that is it for round 7, ladies and gentlemen. Next week I'm certainly not going to be here to commentate, so you will have Jake on his own probably, or he finds someone else to commentate with him. We'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, Jake, I had a lot of fun commentating with you today again. Thanks for joining me.
No problem. It's been absolutely fantastic.
And yeah, that was quite a race. I have to give my voice a bit of a rest now. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Make sure to tune in next week when we head to Singapore. And until then, goodbye and take care.